Is a backlink worthless if it's not indexed?
Didn't we ask that? I feel like we've answered this, but
I don't think we did the video on it
no,
yet,
it's
unless
not
I forgot to take it off the
worthless.
list, but I don't think we did.
Oh, we can answer it either way. No, it's not necessarily worthless. We've talked about it a lot on how, and actually Mueller put out recently that they don't index everything that they crawl, right? Why would, countless citations get indexed? All this takes up space. But to say that it's not categorized and doesn't help paint a picture is erroneous. Now, mind you, we've talked about this too when it comes to like higher end guest posts or niche edits. If the inner page doesn't index within, a certain amount of time, then there could be a problem with, the crawlability of that page, etc. And so hypothetical, if you bought that from a vendor, they should, we would replace it, right? But just because something is not indexed doesn't mean that Google hasn't crawled it and that it's not something that is helping paint the picture of what your website is about. But it does say that if Google has crawled it, then it hasn't been warranted that it would index it. And indexing, to those of you that aren't quite understanding this, is just adding it to search, right? Like that's all it is. It's like, is this valuable enough to add to a search query? And so sometimes even if it's on a site that is valuable, if it's this offhanded page that doesn't really fit in anywhere, it's kind of looking like it won't rank for any specific search query, then it'll just get left off. But that's not to say that it doesn't add value. Now, mind you, obviously, in thinking of that, it means that if something is indexed, it is more valuable than something that is not indexed, right? So, of course, if we're purchasing backlinks or if we're messing with backlink data altogether, then yeah, we would prefer them to be indexed. But like when I do pillowing, I don't ever go check. And I don't ever force index anything. I just let the picture paint naturally.
Yeah. So, like Nick was saying, really, as far as me like caring if a link is indexed, it's definitely going to depend on the type of link it is. If it's a niche edit, a guest post, a PBN link, an editorial link, we're talking about.
When's the last time you ever checked indexation on a link?
It's been a long time, but I
Yeah, same. I put my orders in every month for whatever asset, and then it's like,
but
that's
if
it. That's my job. But yeah,
if
your
let's
budget's
say,
different.
but we're in a little bit of a unique situation. So
Yeah,
let's,
sure.
if it was, if I was, for example, a customer putting orders in through our site and I ordered, some guest posts or some niche edits or whatever, I'd probably, I think I would probably check to see if they're indexed. At least if I wasn't comfortable with the provider at first. If it was like the first couple
Mm-hmm.
orders, whatever, I'd probably check because you always want to make sure you're getting what you paid for or whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, if it's like an editorial link, so niche edit, guest post, PBN link, or that type of thing, you want it to be indexed. They should be indexed. A niche edit should be indexed already because it's existing. It's already existed for some time, and your link is just edited in. Guest post, might depending on the site, it might take a little bit of time since it's actually a new content on their website, right? So it might not be indexed immediately. Um, and then, same for PBN links because it's a new link. Um, but yeah, as far as like you were saying as well, as far as like things like pillow links go, that's not something I ever check at all. Even if I was buying from a provider, I wouldn't check. And, it's these types of links that it doesn't really make sense for Google to index all of them all the time. Um, they have a limited, they have their bots, but they have a limited crawl budget essentially. It's like uh, how many pages of content. Are you still there, Nick? Or are you frozen? Or are you just being like super
I'm
still? Oh
here.
wow, you were being like
I
really
think I'm
still. That
just
was incredible.
I'm looking. I'm trying to figure out why. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, never mind. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
But yeah, I'm here.
so I was just saying, like, it doesn't make sense for them to index all of this stuff that people that they know that their searchers don't care about. So let's say, for example, you typed in plumber in Austin, or even the name of the company, like Sir Links-a-Lot Plumbing, Austin.
Yeah.
And let's say we had built 200 citations for our site. But like, does the
And then there's
searcher,
1,000
yeah,
plumbers in Austin.
does a
Uh,
person that's searching that on Google, do they want to find the citation sites? Like, is that something like a searcher will ever want? And the answer is no, they don't care about that at all.
yeah,
They're,
or is it worthwhile for Google to store that
no,
data? I mean,
exactly,
all this
exactly.
storage costs them money, right? Like, yeah, it'd be insane. That's, in a giant metro that could be like 10 million listings for one niche type of thing, like a plumber,
Yeah.
right? Like in New York or something. And then, to know whether these businesses are still in existence, et cetera. Yeah, that's its own thing altogether.
Yeah. So, so not only does it cost them money to keep it up, but they also know that searchers they don't want to find that information. So the two things kind of work together, right? Like no one cares about
Hmm.
it, and they're, they're making their crawl budget, they're using it more efficiently. Um, so yeah, stuff as far as like pillow links and stuff go, definitely wouldn't worry about that stuff being indexed. Like John of Google says, just because they know about a URL does not mean they will index it. And I actually see like in the future that, I if things can, because people are just putting up so much content on the internet, and actually now things are getting harder to index. And it
Hmm.
actually makes sense over time that this happens because, the internet is just going to grow and grow and grow, but people don't care about anything. You know, Google returns, X amount of like pages for a certain
Yeah.
search term, but no one cares about like the top, anything past page one. So like,
Think
why are they
about like
wasting all this like this budget with
yeah.
their systems and their servers
Think
and
about like these random bloggers that just like have pages of rants about like, what they do in their day in, day out that have no URL structure, don't really fit because like they're not actively trying to pursue getting search engine
as
rankings,
far as Google
but
sees
they're
it, they're
this
just
just
putting out like
mishmash of
gibberish on
content.
the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're talking about robots reading it and then classifying it. Well, a lot of this stuff too, as more people move on to the internet, is becoming more personalized stuff, right? And so it's different and it's harder to classify when you're considering categorizing all this stuff inside of a search engine. So yeah, I think especially what you said about over time, the more people that get on the internet, the less Google's going to do this, especially while they rely on servers to hold this information, right? Because like we said, that costs money. If they've got like a never-ending cloud storage that facilitates all this stuff, maybe they'll just, you know, create a never-ending stream of it. But then, you could imagine that with too much information, um, sorting things within the crawler would get difficult in and of itself too. So, yeah, quite the clusteroloni.
For sure. So yeah, just to sum it up, just because Google knows about a URL does not mean they have to also display that in search results, right? It's kind of like Ahrefs. Ahrefs knows about more links than they tell you that the site has. They just display or tell you about the ones they think are the most important. And that's the same thing that Google does with URLs in its displayable index. But it doesn't
Hmm.
mean that there's anything else behind the scenes, that just because they don't display it in search doesn't mean that they necessarily don't know about it. And
Right.
as far as but yeah, just to recap, important links, guest posts, PBN, niche edits, any type of editorial link like that, you want it to be indexed. Everything else, I wouldn't worry about it. And like Nick also mentioned before, we don't force index anything. If you're building a bunch of pillow links, these things naturally, people, if a Joe Schmo's business goes and builds a bunch of pillow links, they don't also force index them. That's just not something that's natural. So when we're building these supernatural types of links that are just used to look natural, make everything look natural, we prefer to build them as naturally as possible. Some people like to force index them. We offer force indexing as far as our pillow links, diversity links type
Some
of stuff
products, yeah.
goes, but it's not something I do myself. But some people really like it, so you do you. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Be sure to check the description below for links to our blog for more info on this topic, along with a bunch of other cool stuff like case studies, our Facebook community, and our link building services. And like always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell if you enjoyed the video. Thanks and happy ranking.